So you ready for another eye project? This time we're going to do a hooded eye, or someone's eye that's smaller than the other. In this picture of another gal named Ashley, her eye is much smaller than the other one, so we need to open it up a little bit. I never use liquify for this because it distorts the eye and gives them that bubble eye, fish eye look, which isn't very natural looking. So this is a better way to do it. I'm going to choose the lasso tool with a 2-pixel feather. I'm going to zoom in just a little bit on Ashley's eyes and zoom over here. And what I'm going to do is cut her eye right through the middle, right through the corner, and through the pupil and out the other end. And I'm going to loop around through the eyelid and just lasso the top half of the eye. Now, one thing I did forget to do was the S12 setup. It's not too late. I can do it now. But now what I want to do is duplicate that little chunk, which is Control or Command J. So I'll do Control J, and it made a copy of that little chunk. Now, you can't see it at all because it looks like what it's on top of, but there's the piece you can see on top. I'm going to turn these bottom layers back on. So all I need to do is go to the Move tool by typing a V, and then I want to move that layer down. I'm not going to move it with my mouse. I'm going to use the arrow keys on my keyboard. So all I have to do is click 1, maybe 2 pixels up. That's all it takes. Look at the difference, before and after. See how it opens her eye? Now the next thing is maybe doing it again because that didn't really open her eye quite enough. So maybe we have to do the bottom as well. Again, we'll have to click on the retouch layer, go back to the lasso, and this time I'm going to slice it right through the middle. Now if I'm going through the pupil again, I'm going to go around it and then out the other corner and looping around. And this time, Control or Command J again. V for Move tool, and then I'm going to use my arrow keys to go down 1, maybe 2 pixels. That's about it. Let's zoom back and look at the difference. This is before and after. That actually makes a significant difference. And one thing you need to do and watch for is make sure you don't get any little double lines. If you're careful about where you cut the line right through the middle, you won't have a little double image. And sometimes you have to go around the pupil, otherwise you have an elongated pupil. But that actually worked pretty well, moving the bottom half and the top half. And this is a great way to fix a hooded eye or a smaller eye. Oftentimes, the catch light on the other eye will only be partially visible or sometimes missing altogether. So this is when you'll need to clone from one eye to another. Now, it's kind of tough when this eye is made up of 3 layers. So you might have to commit these 3 layers. So we're going to select layer 1, hold Shift, and select the retouch layer. So what we're going to do is we're going to merge layer 1, 2, and retouch together. And Command E is merge layers, or Control E. So now they're merged all together. They are committed. So now it would be really easy to use the clone at 100%, and then you would Alt-click. Let's zoom in a little bit. And with the rubber stamp, Alt-click on the pupil right in the center. Go to the other pupil right in the center. That means they're perfectly lined up. And then you can just color and scribble over on the catch light to make sure that they're both the same. She didn't actually need it, but for many of these projects you do need it. So I wanted to make sure I showed you how to do that. So there you go, a hooded eye before and after. Well, here's another fun liquify project. This is another Ashley who used to work for me, and she wanted to be a little slimmer in this picture. So let me show you the trick to doing that without any distortion. Of course, we need to do the F12 setup, and then we're going to do filter liquify. And it's pretty important that we freeze parts of her body that we don't want shrunk. So I'm going to freeze her head, and I definitely want to freeze her arm because I'm going to push her body in from both sides, but I really don't want to distort the seam of her jeans, nor do I want to shrink her arm or make her little fingers turn into little spikes either. So I'm freezing this right over to the edge of her shirt and right down to the seam of her jeans and over to her fingers. There we go. So next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to use the warp tool, and I'm going to use a very large brush because This is a big area, and I want it to be very smooth. So I'm going to put the center of the brush at the edge of her body and just press in. And then down here, press in. From the back, I'll press towards the center. And make sure you keep her cute little shape. Now, on these low-waisted jeans, there's always a little bump, even if they're skinny. So I'm going to use a smaller brush that's about the size of the little lump, and I can just flatten that out very nicely. And that looks pretty good, just like that. Then I can either thaw it, or I can just hit OK and see how it looks. So this is before and after. What a huge difference. So let's zoom in and take a look at that. What's really great about this is there's no distortion at all. And because we froze it right over to the line of the jeans, any compression that happens is disguised because it's right along that line. And even the webbing of the belt, you really can't see any distortion. Same with the front. There's not really any distortion there. Now, because I froze her fingertips, they weren't affected. However, on occasion, the little tips of her fingers might get pinched to being very narrow, even though I froze it. And so if that happens, it's real easy to use your history at 100% and just bring back the little tips of her fingers in case you need to. So on something like this, you certainly want to use your retouch setup first. So isn't that great? She loved her picture, and no one would ever know that she was slimmed down in this image.